up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So if you guys are tuning in for the first time on this channel, we talk about jail, prison, crime, corruption, and I really like to talk about how people go through all that shit and then they change their life and do something good with it. So I like to bring guests on this channel to do exactly that, tell their testimony and, the hardships they've went through in their life. And today's guest happened to fall into all those categories. So I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce you to you guys. Man, why don't you go ahead and tell them what your name is and where you're from?
What's going on, everybody? Much appreciation to you for bringing me on the show. My name is Mitch. Everybody calls me Big Mitch. Coming out of Florida Department of Corrections. I currently live in Miami right now. And I was sentenced to about 10 years in the Florida Department of Corrections, of which I did close to about 9 with gain time and everything, and accounting for not being charged as an adult just yet because I went in the system as a juvenile at 17.
All right. So I know you are an amputee from, your Instagram and everything. And I think that's important because you, like me, bro, in the Florida Department of Corrections, there's a lot of people with disabilities. There's, mental illness, wheelchair, all that kind of stuff. So
100%. 100%.
If you want to tell the people like how all that happened.
Yeah, 100%. So this was the thing that I was born with. I mean, on occasion, when I was bored, sometimes I'd make up a story for somebody just to get them going, and then just be like, "Hey, man, no, I'm just messing with you, man. I'm just pulling your chain, bro." This was the thing since birth. This was a birth deformity. I was born breached, and so I always mess with my mom. I tell her that her abs were so strong that because of how I was formed, that her abs wouldn't let my legs form all the way. So that's what ended up happening. They amputated at a young age. So I've been going like this. I wear prosthesis on both legs. I'm not in a wheelchair or anything like that. So a lot of people that did see me throughout Florida, they knew that, they knew off rip, that I had these prosthetic legs. So that was a little bit of my situation. And eventually, like you said, Florida Department of Corrections, I got to say, is probably one of the biggest hospitals, especially for mental health, probably in the state of Florida, I dare say, to venture out and go out on a limb. But because of how much you see going on in there, you realize how many people have some sort of ailment, something that ails them regardless. And you and I have both seen it. I've seen it plenty of times going through Lake Butler, especially because Lake Butler in South Florida a little bit, but you really see on full display how much there really is going on. Because I think the whole thing with the Department of Corrections, at least in Florida, is that they have to provide you adequate medical care, that which you would receive if you were out. Like if you were out, and you would be able to take care of all these things. So they need to be able to take care of them as well. That's my understanding of it. I don't know that that's a fact or proven, but from everything that I've read and understood to the best of my knowledge, that's how it goes. And I think that's why there is so much and they can get away with so much there.
Yeah, I believe that too, bro. So you obviously grew up in Florida. What was life like for you growing up, man? Like, where'd you come from? How did it all go down?
I'm coming from out of Miami, Florida. And, I hung out with a little bit of a shady crowd, but, at the end of the day, I was, like I said, I'll branch out a little bit and I'll give you guys a little bit of background. I was 17 when I went in. So at 17, what do you really know about yourself, let alone the world? At that point in time, what was more important to me was kind of my social circle and, connecting with friends, just hanging out. And it's funny because of my disability, I ended up meeting this guy because we were both taking the elevator together and he had broken his leg. And he was a gang member at the time. He was young and, kind of went off into that lifestyle. I didn't think anything of it. But we ended up hanging out. I never got down with anything or anything like that. I don't bang. I'm what you call the neutron in Florida. And so, but we ended up hanging out for a little while, and he ended up getting into a bad situation up in Orlando. He ended up getting himself a first-degree murder charge after a bar fight. He ended up shooting the guy outside the bar. And like an idiot, what happened was he kind of trusted a little too much. Long story short, I'll paraphrase it a little bit. But long story short was there was a guy on the inside. You know this type. If you guys have been in, you guys know this type. But a guy just looking to kind of take some time off of his own sentence, you know, so he was a rat. He ended up introducing an idea to the police department. He called the tips line, and he's like, hey man, I think this guy's trying to get the witnesses to his case killed. They set him up with a whole fake hitman, like they were going to go and take care of the witnesses themselves. Like he was just made him feel like he was some kind of boss behind the wall, you know, when in reality he wasn't. We were all just 17, 18-year-old kids, you know, but this guy kind of pushed the hand and fed this information to the cops, and they ran with it. And what ended up happening was I was buying his car from him because he was already in jail. What did he need the car for, right? So I was going to buy his 1980 Cadillac Fleetwood from him. It was beautiful, and I was going to buy it for $3,000 because, hey, you need the money, I need the car. I'm 17, I'm about to go into senior year, you know, and, hey, so we're going to make ends meet. What ended up happening, because obviously the phone calls are recorded in jail, and, you know, they tell you that at the beginning and the end of the phone call, you know, all these calls are recorded. So he didn't tell me anything, what was going on. Unknowingly, I'm thinking I'm giving this money to one of his homeboys or something. And so I'm like, all right, cool. I'll give it to so-and-so. And turns out this guy is posing as a hitman to be the one to take out the witnesses to his own case. And
hold on. So he gets in a fight in a bar. He kills the dude.
Goes to jail after that fight.
Okay.
So he's in jail, and then this guy sets him up with, you know, what he thinks is going to be a hitman to take out the rest of the witnesses to his case. He's feeding all this information to him, talking about.
Is your homeboy going for it, or is this guy just making all this up?
He went for it after, you know, stupid. That was his mistake. He went for it.
And then he used you to sell the car to get money to pay the other to the hitman to make it happen.
And what I ended up with is a bunch of conspiracy to first degree murder charges, because conspiracy is almost like, to a degree, if you talk about something, you could talk about something if you provide information. You know, I provided funding, so it was conspiracy and solicitation to first degree murder and tampering with a witness to hinder truthful testimony, all of which are felonies. And like I said, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know, after this guy told me he's a hitman, I'm like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me, man. And
when did he tell you that?
as soon as I handed him the money, you know, he's like,
he's like, hey, thanks for the money. I'm going to go off homeboy now.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, what the fuck am I supposed to tell you? Excuse me for cursing, but it's like, what the heck am I supposed to tell you? What am I supposed to tell you? You know, it's like, no, let me get that money back real quick now. It's like, all right, well, and
did you know at that point though, like this shit's, it's about to get real in the battlefield type shit?
Mm-hmm. And that, well, here's the thing, was as soon as I stepped out of the car, I didn't have a chance to act. The cops were, it was a setup. It was a sting operation.
They hit you right then.
Right then and there. They pulled in with about, you know, 10 unmarked cars and ran down on us, had the guns in our faces and everything, pulled me out of the vehicle and, you know, went from there.
Damn. So the moral of the story is don't trust anyone.
Don't trust it, you know. Get more confident within yourself. Ask questions. Question everything. You know, even with your boys. I mean, this was a guy, you know, obviously we had been in our fair share of trouble, but nothing that I really saw this guy was going to really pull off and really go for, you know. He ended up being a gopher, you know, meaning you'll go for anything. And I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me. And then as I'm reading my discovery in the county jail, I'm like, you really went for this? You really went for this nonsense, this story, man? And
so when they arrested you, what county jail did they take you to?
Orange County, Orlando, Florida.
Okay. So what was that experience like for you?
Oh man, let me tell you, Orange County jail is a whole different animal than the actual prison system. County jail, you're kind of going through because you're kind of still thinking about everything that's outside. And the fact of the matter that, exactly, what's going to happen, I don't know what's going to happen. All I heard was that what a judge read, what these charges are punishable by. And so I'm just going off of the fact that, man, all of a sudden I'm 17 years old, living in a grown man's world with, you know, looking at the possibility of spending the rest of my life in jail and prison. So I'm just like, man, you got to be kidding me. So for about 2 years, I fought it. Little fun fact is the same prosecutor who prosecuted Casey Anthony was the same one who prosecuted me at the time. It was in Orange County. My case was before Casey Anthony, obviously, but he went on later to prosecute Casey Anthony because he was the top one in Orlando at the time. You know, obviously he lost that case.
Too.
Yeah, and there was a big story about that. And I think that's just karma, to be honest with you. I think what comes around goes around. If you're not living right, what's in the darkness comes to light eventually for all of us. So, but yeah, he was there were a few articles that were written about that.
So when you ended up going to court, did you have a public defender or did your family get you an attorney?
My family we ended up having a paid lawyer, and it was everything worked out, man, by whatever you want to believe in. If you believe in God, if you believe in a higher power, whatever you believe, whatever you choose to believe. I tell you what, because at the end of the day, I fought for about 2 years, still saying my defense the entire time was that I don't feel like I really did anything wrong that is deserving of, the rest of my life in jail. I made a mistake. Obviously I'm willing to admit that. I should have questioned it. I should have just, found a better way to give the money to either his family who needed it or, just directly or something. There were a lot of things that I could have done 100%. I'll own that to this day. But my entire defense at that time was that I felt like I didn't do anything wrong. So I was the only one of my co-defendants, because anybody who had ever sent him money, they slapped a conspiracy charge on too. Just because of the fact that it was more people that if they could get a guilty plea out of, that was another person that was going to testify against him in court. So I was the last one standing. And, obviously you have this mentality of like, no snitching, no, snitches get stitches. Not that I was like worried about that, but I didn't want to be that person at the end of the day either. So I went to trial. I pled guilty the entire way through. At the end, the prosecutor offered me a 15-year plea deal if I pled guilty. So I'm like, nah, yeah, that's not really a deal. So I said, you know what? We're going to go ahead and go to trial. Like I said, by the grace of God, I lost trial. I'm probably one of the only people that I know that got lucky enough, especially for some charges like this. I got 10 years. What ended up happening was I got 10 years for each count that I got found guilty of. And because of some double jeopardy grounds and things, things like that, they ended up finding me guilty of 6. So I got 10 for each count, which was a total of 60 years. And I'm like holding my breath at the end of sentencing. And she finally says, and I'm going to run them all concurrent. So that meant I just did the one deal of 10 years. And I was like,
so you got sentenced as an adult then, right?
I did get sentenced as an adult. It was just because of the fact that I was younger at the time. See, Lancaster wasn't so convoluted at the time of that I had went, that it was at the time, excuse me, let me backtrack a little bit. At the time, Lancaster was for 24 and under. You could still be classified as a youthful offender at 24 and under at that time until, a few of the youth offender camps closed. I know Brevard closed. I don't know if Indian River closed or not. I think Lake City still operated, but because of the fact, I know some main unit camps ended up like having a YO dorm and things of that nature. So I don't exactly know how it works, but at that time, I was classified as a YO because of my age. Because I was less than 24 years old at the time, they classified me as a YO and they sent me to Lancaster.
All right. So, I mean, everybody in Florida knows about, the notorious JIT camps and what goes on there, the TOHs, gangland, all that stuff. So my question would be, what did you go through being an amputee and going into a place, going into a battlefield? How did that go for you, man?
Here's the thing, and I'll give you a quick story behind it too. I'll give you 2 quick stories behind it real quick. Was that at first, obviously it's all about respect, and you kind of earn yourself a reputation. Obviously we all kind of, anybody who's been there, they know how it really is. The thing was was at Lancaster. They call it Clancaster because so many of the guards were notorious for being a part of the KKK. So a lot of them had a notoriety for being part of the Klan. And let me tell you, these guys were huge too. I don't know what the hell they eat up there, these country corn-fed boys. And like, let me tell you, and like I'm not like small, you know, like I consider myself a pretty strong dude, but man, these guys would just straight up outclass me. So it was almost immediate reaction. As soon as I got off the bus at Lancaster, they were on me. They were on me like white on rice. They were making fun of me, calling me Lieutenant Dan, calling me Hop Along, calling me this, that, and the other. And so I kind of got fed up. I was angry because the day starts so early when you get transferred anyway. I mean, the day starts at like 2, 3 a.m. You got to get thousands of inmates ready, feed them, get them all ready to go on the bus. It's, you know, it's like the longest day of your life. Transferring anywhere is like the longest day ever. So what ended up happening was eventually I got tired of the comments, and I said to one of them, I said, hey man, you know, I mean, accidents happen. You never know, man, what could potentially happen, you know, going home from work, you know, to you, your family, your daughter. That was the wrong thing to say.
He didn't like that.
That was the wrong thing to say.
He took that as a verbal threat.
I have been, and I wasn't suggesting I was going to do anything. I was just saying that, you know, things happen.
This is reality, bro. Like,
this is reality. It could be anybody. But in the beginning, they're trying to prove a point. And they're trying to break you and show you that this is our prison. We run this. You don't run a damn thing except your mouth. So let me tell you, this guy hit me harder than I've ever been hit in my damn life. This guy knocked me straight on my ass. Eventually, it's funny because eventually we became cool once I developed more of a reputation. And because of the fact that I set the standard that I'm not just going to be talked to or disrespected any kind of way from guard or inmate, that kind of set me apart from everybody, because at that point in time, most of the other inmates, convicts, were on my side about that, because they're like, damn, that's messed up. Why are you going after the man like that? And so from that point, I kind of think that was kind of my saving grace, at least as far as inmates were concerned. You'll always have somebody, you know, that'll sit there and they won't like you no matter what. No matter what the circumstances are, no matter what you do, no matter how much you try to, you know, avoid. Some things just can't be avoided. Some people won't like you regardless. And to my understanding, and to my own admitting to myself, at least, you know, if I ever had an issue, it was because I wanted to push an issue, because I felt disrespected to a certain point that I needed to act. I wasn't going to be just, you know, ran over by anybody. A lot of them respected that. I got a lot of respect from guard and inmate after that because of how I carried myself. And I was always.
Did you go through any kind of TOH when you went?
I went through a different kind of TOH, to be honest with you. So funny enough, it wasn't a point of like, because at that point, everybody knew I would fight. I would stand up for myself. So a lot of what it is, you know, is the fact that I'm going to test this guy and see where he's at. If he's soft, he's soft. If I can go and get canteen from him, you know, anytime I want to, of course, I'm going to go and get that. It doesn't matter who you are. And you don't really know who to trust. Some people will be like, oh, you know, don't worry about it, bro, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you're in control of your own destiny. And so I didn't try at this point. Obviously, I already got trust issues, you know, even for some of my closest friends. So why the hell am I going to take your word for it? So I would come off not overly aggressive, but enough of the type to where you knew I wasn't the one, you know, you knew I wasn't the one. And so I'll tell you a quick story on behalf of kind of the TOH. I was still new to Lancaster compound. And so I made a few friends, and even the people you associate with, they kind of want to see where you're at, because if you're soft, I don't really want to be associated with a soft dude. You know, you don't want to be associated with, any homosexuals or any, child molesters or anything. You want to know that if you're hanging out with somebody, you want to know that they're a solid dude. So I remember my buddy Wolf. He was the head of his set at the time. He was another gang member, but he was cool as shit. And he's actually the only guy I ever knew that got a successful lawsuit against the Florida Department of Corrections. He got hit by a truck at a work camp at one point in time, and so that was the only guy I seen never do it. He was like a was like a psychological mastermind. I'll give him that. He knew how to play his game. And so he had sold some weed to somebody, and the guy hadn't paid him yet. So middle of the day, this is about maybe 2008, I think. Yeah, so this is about 2008. So he's like, hey, he's like, Mitch, he's like, just roll with me today, man. He's like, just take a walk with me, man. He's like, I got to go handle some business, but hey, just make it look a little more legitimate, make it look legit. So you just kind of hang with me, and we'll think of a story on the way to tell the officers, where we're going, because we're just a few inmates just walking the compound, at the time. So we recruit one other guy. His name was Coddington, to the cause. And so it's 3 of us now. And so we passed the captain, and the captain's like, where the hell you guys think you're going? You guys are 3 just going for a walk during the day? And we're like, no, Captain, we know we got dorm inspection coming up tomorrow, man. We're going to go through all these dorms and check the showers and see if we need to get the buffer out, so we can clean some of these showers. This guy took the bait like nothing, for whatever reason. And I kind of learned a little bit about doing time and running people down, and they call it the rundown. If you can give them a rundown, if you can give them a bullshit lie and they believe it and they go for it, your rundown game is good. That was how it was, at least when I was at Lancaster. It was how good your bullshit game was. If you could get the officers to believe you and smile at their face really while you were doing something else, your rundown game was good. Their rundown game or their reputation on the compound, just, hey, he's like, you know what, that's a damn good idea. Yeah, go start over in this dorm. Go to this dorm, and the guy he had sold the weed to was a houseman at the time. So all he does is stay in the dorm and clean the dorm. Right. So literally run down on this dude and catch him slipping right in his own room. He doesn't expect anybody else walking in. The officer working that dorm at the time, he was about 400 pounds. He looked like one of those TV shows that you can't get out of bed kind of thing. I don't know how this guy walked, but he was like 400 pounds. And so he didn't want to do anything anyway. So we sent Coddington in the office to go talk to him for a while, just to distract him, to make sure, the officer doesn't do, because, they make their rounds, they go around checking the dorm and stuff like that. This guy didn't want to do shit anyway. So we sent Coddington in there to go talk to him for however long it took. So we run down on this guy, and this guy was affiliated too. I actually think he was the same gang, just a different set, funny enough. And so he's like, hey, we run down on this guy. I didn't know what was going on at the time, but I was like, hey, I got nothing better to do at the time, so let's go. And like I said, you kind of got to get a feel for the compound for yourself. So we run down on this dude. He's like, hey, man, didn't I tell you about getting my money? And I could see his brother kind of coming up from the side. And he's got like his hands like in his waistband. It's kind of a common thing if you're like hiding a weapon, or honestly, it's comfortable. So I can say that it is comfortable. And sometimes I do that with the stretchy pants anyway. I'd put my hands kind of in the waistband, and kind of tuck them in. But I can see he's kind of sneaking up there. And so I got 2 of the best weapons on the compound. They're 2 titanium legs. And I know how to throw a head kick really well too. So, not bragging or anything like that, but if it came down to it, I knew how to fight. Not the best. I'm not the biggest, baddest motherfucker out there. That wasn't the message I portrayed. But nevertheless, if it came down to it, I wasn't scared to do whatever it took, because especially if somebody's just going to come at me. So he's kind of sneaking up, and he's got his hands in his waistband, and I can tell he's kind of creeping up from the side. And I take my leg and I just lightly clang it, and it makes a loud ass clang against his locker. And like I said, I was new to the compound, so I don't even think he knew who I was. And then I just kind of stand there, and I give him this fucking, I give him this look, like, and I'm just standing there, just kind of like looking big. And he just looked at, his eyes widened, and he looked like he was about to fight one of the Avengers or something, because he's like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, he's like, who the hell is this guy, man? This guy's like half Iron Man. Who the hell did this guy bring to the? And so, funny enough, we didn't crash, or we didn't even have to crash or anything like that. But Wolf ended up making a move to where him and all his brothers, their cards didn't work on the canteen anymore. He's like, you know what, until you get me my money, he said, I'm going to teach you guys a lesson. He said, if you want to crash, we can crash right here. He said, but he said, until that time, until I get my money, your card doesn't work at canteen. Nobody's card works at canteen. So as soon as you guys get it together, you guys let me know. He said, but trust me, I wasn't worried about that little lock that you got or that little shank that you have in your, that your brothers tried to pull up on me. So it was funny and it worked out. But in a way that was kind of we actually got a hit put out on us. I guess they call it a green light in other states or whatever, but I've never heard that term in Florida personally. But we ended up getting a hit put out on us, but they could never pay anybody. So it ended up working out. That kind of served another example that I wasn't going to be taken for granted. I wasn't going to take any shit. And also at the same time, you know, I was down for if you were ready to get stupid, I was ready to get stupid kind of thing. And people knew that from then on. And then people kind of have to ask themselves a question. It's like, okay, one, if I fight this guy and I get whooped, I'm the guy that got whooped by the guy with no legs. And number two, even if I whoop the guy with no legs, you don't really get a whole lot of credit for that. So here's the thing. But I made it a point. So from that point in time, he kind of tested me to see where my mind frame was at. If shit hits the fan, are you ready for it? And I had proved that I was, and that example and a few others showed that I wasn't just going to be an easy target. I wasn't just going to lay down. Plus I'm easy to get along with, and I love to work out. So a lot of these guys most of the time they worked out with me, to be honest with you. A lot of the bigger guys who ended up, you know, in kind of the top ranks and crown holder positions within their institutions, typically I worked out with, because a lot of them typically ended up sometimes being the biggest ones. So a lot of them just wanted to work out with me.
So was that going on and you working out with them, and you kind of went on a mission with a gang member? It's almost like he kind of TOH'd you to see if you were really about it when you went with him. So were you ever, being a neutron, pressed upon to click up with an organization?
All the time. All the time.
Okay.
All the time.
What organizations wanted to recruit you?
Crips, folks, and Kings, to be honest with you, because I have my grandmother's Puerto Rican, so it's natural that a lot of the Kings and a lot of respect have been shown to me because of the fact that even that little percentage of Puerto Rican that I have in me, regardless, they had a lot of respect for it, and a lot of them do look out for kind of their own kind in that aspect. So
you're Puerto Rican and then white, I take it?
Puerto Rican, white, and then you got some Pacific Islander. My other grandmother's from Hawaii, so you know she's native to there. So
I know you said you got approached by the Kings, the G's, and the folks and everything. Like, what were the white boys doing at Lancaster?
I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of them, they made some moves. Now I will say that a lot of them were making some moves for themselves. They weren't starving, but they weren't. You had them there, and they would. They were about their issue, but they didn't have the numbers that some of the other ones did. They had the position, they had the authority because of the fact that a lot of the guards were white, and they favored the fact that if you were white, you stood up for yourself and you showed that you were solid and that you weren't going to let just anybody take shit from you. They took a liking to a lot of the white guys there that did, you know, and myself included, because they included me as white. It's what it said on my ID. So if you were white and you stood up for yourself, and they you know, a lot of times they respected that. So to be honest with you though, if you're now, as far as in general, if you showed any kind of weakness, I mean, that's just how it goes, man. I mean, you're going to be preyed upon. It doesn't matter what you are. But a lot of times, a lot of them do get folded. And a lot of them, it does happen.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is because some people watching my channel are from out West and, you know, other states. And it seems like on the West Coast, you know, the white boys are really about that shit. And I've been to prison in Florida twice, and, you know, I don't like admitting it, bro, because, you know, there's a lot of white boys that really ain't living like that in there. And it's like you said, the white people are the minority. So they're easy to fold and to make, you know, turn them into a jizzle or a jun or whatever you want to call them. And, you know, some people watching this, like, I think they get the wrong idea that every white person that goes to prison in Florida is breaking it off or they're washing somebody's boxers. And it's really not like that, but it's like that. It's kind of like a weird fucking monopoly that goes on in there. So that's why I was asking, because I always like to ask people that have been to prison in Florida, what their outlook on that was, because there's a lot of different misconceptions about a lot of things.
100%, and I can definitely agree with that. And it's like I said, it's an easier target because number one, you now became the minority in prison. You know, there's not as many white guys, and so you're looking for another fraction. If you're not willing to stick up for yourself, if you're not willing to fight for yourself, I would tell a lot of the guys that would hang out. Listen, if you don't fight for yourself, why would I ever fight for you? You know, like, well, why would, you know? Because at the end of the day, that's just why. If you won't even fight for yourself, all you got to do is, you know, you might have to get into one fight, but that's going to show them, hey, if this guy goes to take my stuff that either my parents, my wife, or somebody else paid for, why would I'm not going to keep coming back here if you're going to fight every single time. So, and I think that's kind of what the TOH shows, is that, you know, it's like, hey, I'm testing you to see where you're at. You know, if you're going to fight, then hey, you know, if not, then a lot of them get recruited too, you know, and a lot of them, you know, get recruited to the gangs. I'm not saying anything biased about that, but I'm just saying that, you know, at the end of the day, you got to stand on your own 2 feet. But I agree with you 100%. A lot of people do have that misconception, and you see it, but you also see the other side of that. You also see the solid ones that sit there and, you know, that can thrive in an environment like that. You know, I'm not saying that like it's a good thing, but nevertheless.
Right. Well, how long did you end up staying at Lancaster? I'm assuming you went to an adult prison after your age, like, would allow you to.
Exactly. So I got shipped out of Lancaster at about 22, I think I was, or I was just about to turn 22. So I spent about the better part of about 3.5 years at Lancaster. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like, Lancaster, for as messed up as it's capable of being, as a JIT camp is capable of being, I had some of the best times I had some of the best laughs. I had some of the, you know, I met some of the best people there. Maybe because everybody's young and not particularly set in their ways just yet. Don't get me wrong, it gets rough now, and it gets ugly, and it gets stupid. But, you know, there was also another side of that. It's kind of like it's kind of like The Longest Yard, where everything's messed up and everybody knows it's messed up, but we're all still laughing about it anyway, and we're all still in the shit together, kind of thing. That was how I saw Lancaster after a while.
All right, man. So you went to JIT camp, you get shipped off to adult camp. What I would like to do, man, is, if you're down, is have you come back on the channel and kind of tell, you know, what you went through in adult camp, when you got out, how life has been for you then, if you're down 100%. To do that.
100%. Yeah, we can't condense 10 years into a half hour. So yeah,
right.
Definitely.
But I know you have a YouTube channel and an Instagram, so I want to give you the opportunity to be able to tell the people watching how they can find you.
Yeah, check out. I'll send you the link if you want to go ahead and post it. But you can find me on YouTube at Big Mitch Fit or Big Mitch Motivation on Instagram. So either one, like I said, I'll go ahead and send you the information, and we can go from there.
All right, man. So yeah, I'll put the link to his social media in the description of this video. If you guys haven't, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and turn post notifications on all. So every time I drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that, it's DOC TV, and we're out.